Well, hey there, YouTube. It's Petey, and today we're talking DIY fuzz box. Now, I don't want to go deep. I want to go basic and simple. So, if you've never built a pedal, I got a recommendation for you. We're going to be talking about stuff where pretty much a silicon fuzz. I've built germanium. That's a whole nother discussion. Today's talk is Petey's silicon fuzz recommendations. I've built some of this stuff. Some of it I'm just going on the reputation of the fuzz. So you'll have to excuse my ignorance and talking out of my ass. Let's go ahead and look at a beginner project. The Baz Fuzz, as you can see, it's one, two, three, four, five, six, like six components on here. There's a silicon transistor, 2N3904, the single 100K pot. This here is a zero point 0.1 UF capacitor, and then we have a 4.7 microfarad electrolytic. There's a single 10K resistor. It doesn't get any simpler than this with our 1N914 clipping diode. Here's the ground strip. So your output goes here to your guitar jack, and then you're going to need another ground. So you could solder in a wire here going to accompany this positive wire, your output. And then for the input here, your other ground, you could solder wire in there and go up to your jack. And then you'll need another copy of this wire here for the 9-volt battery's ground. So that's how that works. This is a cut here, and this could be built in about 10 minutes. Actually, looking up Baz Fuzz, it's BAZZ space FUSS. I believe it's an Escobedo, is the name of the guy who designed it. You can find stuff like this and then just build it on a breadboard and experiment. Mine is do I want to talk about mine? I combined two of these with so like first is an NPN boost, okay, the Smalley NPN boost. Then there's a Bass Fuzz stage, and then there's another Bass Fuzz stage, and I think they're connected in series with 68K resistors, like in series. Okay, this is how I built this thing, and I used a orange ultra bright LED here, and I forget what type of diode was it. It wasn't an N14. I'd have to look it up. The final result of that was a fuzz that had way enough gain, like really a lot of pleasing gain, and it was dead silent. It gated. Now, most gated fuzz have weird stuff going on the attack and release. This had none of that. It was just a perfectly silent, like noise gated fuzz that really sounded great. And I have all that information if you'd like to build one of those. If you'd like to build the ultimate silicon gated fuzz, just a 2-knob job, really an easy, fun project with off-the-shelf parts, cheap, low parts count, you can contact me and I will give you that information. I have schematic and diagrams for it. Roger Mayer's Access Fuzz. This is another silicon fuzz. It uses 2N3906 and then a 2N3904. And this is recommended as a really good sounding, smooth fuzz that works well with single coil and humbuckers. This is a highly recommended, really good sounding hybrid, later development. This is one that's really recommended. It's like later on, after this guy had kind of been through some designs, he ended up with this. The Creepy Fingers SI Fuzz Face. This is BC130C, so this one shouldn't be here, but this is my fuzz face recommendation. This guy here, the Creepy Fingers dude, he's the bass player for Monster Magnet or Fu Manchu, I forget. So this guy really lives, knows, and breathes fuzz circuits, And this is his fuzz face. So that should be saying something to you. Should be worth your time to hunt down some BC 130Cs if you really want a custom fuzz face. That's the one that I recommend. Mic Tester Silicone Tone Bender. This uses the 2N5089. Now, more commonly, you'll see 2N5088. The 2N5089 is more expensive, and that's the low noise version. So why you would use the noisy one? Well, I guess if you're cheap. But there's 4 of these in here, and they don't cost much more. It's got a trimmer and a fat switch, and this is just a spectacular. This fuzz delivers. The only thing about the Mic Tester Silicone Tone Bender is it doesn't give you a wide array of tones. If you want to get into that weird territory, Zipper, Velcro, Devi Ever, Fuzz Factory, these buzzwords, none of these apply here. This is going to be Gilmore tones or classic rock, and whatever you can do with adjusting your volume knob. There's plenty of tones there. But getting into that weird goofball territory, this won't do any of that. Of course, with any of these circuits, you can employ a starve function and starve them of current and obtain even more tones. But that's not something I technically really, I don't get that deep into it. The X-Fuzz by Dead Astronaut. This one uses the 52N5088. Whereas I would recommend, if you've got the 5089s, those are the low noise version. The only thing, the stipulation here is these diffused 5mm yellow LEDs. Supposedly, well, I don't want to say supposedly because the guy who built this really knows what he's talking about, and he specifically stated, depending on these. So if I was going to build this, I would order a pack of 10 of these, or even 20, depending on their cost, and I would test them. And I would also use sockets and listen and see, is there a difference of trying these out? If he really recommended the yellow ones, well, what about in between 20 of the yellow ones? Am I going to find 1 or 2 that are going to give me a little bit more of what I want? Some people claimed that they were unable to get it to go into the really weird synthy territory. But most people were, and I would say if they had a problem, that was user error. They had a wrong part, there was some bad connection, or some kind of, something wasn't right. Because that astronaut really knows his stuff, and I respect that guy. He certainly does put his time in on the breadboard, and he came up with some really complicated designs. Plus, he's a motherfucker. You've ever heard that guy play the guitar? Holy shit, is he good. Holy shit, is he good. He's like Buckethead good. So this is the one that got away. This is the one I need to build. Every year I'm like, I really need to build that X-Fuzz. And I get carried away building an amp or some noisemaker. And so I'm making this video to remind myself, hey, this is still on the list for 10 years or whatever it's been. You need to build an X-Fuzz by Dead Astronaut. Last but not least, I discovered the Tagboard Effects forum has an unverified layout section. So this is Guitar Effects Layouts forum. I think it's Tagboard Effects. And there is this unverified layout section here. And I found this Fjord Fuzz Mjolnir, and it's spelled with an E. And this is the only place on the internet you will find this image. I would recommend you, even if you don't have any plans to build this, that you grab this image today. FYI 6E1 posts. Hi, I've been looking here for some time. Thanks for everything you've shared. Found the schematic on Instagram. I have it on my breadboard. No pink LEDs. I'm trying other diodes, considering power supply filter cap makes it a bit less weird. Sounds cool so far. Now, I found, of course, using the 2N2222, 3 of those silicon transistors. Those are my favorite. I really like the tin hat ones, just because they look so cool. And the pink ultra bright LEDs, I went ahead and ordered a handful of those just for this product. And boy, was I glad I did. I found just an incredibly fantastically usable fuzz that goes into those brass, like the Maestro FC1, but way better. This fuzz, I cannot recommend this anymore. Mine has a switch. I wonder what that switch is. Did I do a... it's probably a switch for a smaller capacitor in the input. I'm not sure what that switch is, but there's a bias, starve control, and the volume. And I will tell you, this fuzz, it does trumpets, it does kind of Velcro-y, it does the Devi Ever stuff. It's not as crazy. It's not a noise fuzz. This is just a really great sounding, way versatile fuzz. It's way more versatile than our friend, the silicone tone bender. So if somebody comes to you and tells you, listen, I want the ultimate, like, classic fuzz, and they're okay with it not being an overdrive, like they want a fuzz, this is what I recommend. If they want something that's more adventurous, like they really want a 60s sounding weirdo kind of fuzz, this one. But I mean, this will do all kinds of different things. The Mjolnir is just that. This is the highest recommendation one I have here. The X Fuzz, I have to build this. Shame on me for even making this without putting this up here. Without building this. You know, I'm making this video on fuzz, and this is everyone, like if you read the comments, so many people loved this circuit. The people that said they didn't like fuzz loved it. So that tells me that it may do, it may veer away from fuzz territory and get closer into a traditional distortion, which is fine. I mean, I'm not like, it doesn't, everything doesn't have to sound like Norman Greenbaum's Spirit in the Sky for me. But if I was going for that, this is the fuzz I would be using. Because it does that splatty trumpet shit. Anyway, I hope this was useful. I cannot recommend the Mjolnir more, but at the same time, there's a real lot of love for this X Fuzz that I haven't built. So I'm going to go over and check out the X Fuzz demo. Unfortunately, if you look for the Mjolnir, you're going to find a dead end, or some other products that are different. This is a design from Fjord Fuzz that was shared on Instagram and never shared again. So I don't know if this is available, but the Fjord Fuzz company sells these really boutique fuzzes that are very... Here's one. Here's one. They've got this copper plate, and they're very expensive. Here's a Fjord Fuzz. Really cool looking stuff. So this was one of his designs, I believe. And man, I really like it. That's like the one that got away versus the one that I never built. All right, you guys, I hope this video was useful. Happy fuzzing.